Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to work a little bit with really tight groins, how to open up the groins and give a little relief. You know, whether you're practicing yoga or you're not, or you're a sports person, you could be playing tennis, you could be a runner. Oftentimes the tightness in the groin is the problem, especially if it tears. So let's just focus today's class on a little bit more softening and poses for those areas. Okay? Let's get started. Before we start our practice, I wanted to let you know about my online programs and workshops. Whether you're new to Iyengar yoga and want to learn the basics in a systematic way, a seasoned practitioner looking to revisit the essentials, or a yoga teacher seeking inspiration. These programs and workshops are self-paced, allowing you to make consistent progress and revisit specific topics whenever you like. You can find the link in the description below. With that said, let's begin our practice today. All right, I'm sitting on a blanket to begin with. I'm going to extend the legs out in front of me, Dandasana, and then bend the right knee, bring the foot in. So I'm on the outer side of the foot, and then bend the other knee, bring that leg in, and join the feet together, soles of the feet and the heels. From here, you have to pay attention to what's happening with your knees in relationship to your hips. So if your knees are way up here, you're definitely going to need to have more height to sit on. I've taken one blanket. If I were sitting completely on the ground, you can see where this would cause a little tension in the groin. Now, after a while, I can sit there and I can, because I've been practicing, I can lengthen and open. So not knowing how your groins are doing, I assume they're a little bit tight, but here you're wanting to lengthen and draw back. So this is lengthening, this is drawing back, your feet are connecting. So you're pressing the soles of the feet, the mounds of the toes, the heels, and I have my hands behind me lifting up. Now you could also take a bolster behind you. Whoops. Take a bolster behind you, bring your hands onto that bolster, and lift up so that you're not sinking into the front groin, but you're making some space. So press the hands down, lift up through the chest, roll your shoulders back, and feel that space there. Okay, if you're using your blanket or more than one blanket, either way, just take what's necessary for your body. We're all a little bit different, but we want to open this inner leg, and by connecting the feet, by lengthening the inner groin, and also kind of rounding the corner there over your knee, you're drawing back and you're lengthening your outer thighs. Your outer thighs are moving towards your hips. And then be on the fingertips, roll your shoulders back, elbows bent, and find the mounds of the toes, draw the toes back towards you. Okay, so feel that you're moving yourself, not leaning back, but you're using the hands and the arms to bring your trunk over your hips so that the buttock is moving down, lower back is lifting up to the middle back, to the upper back, and sides of the head or sides of the neck are lengthening as you move your shoulders down. Let's be with whatever you can feel. Observe that as you press the feet, lengthen the inner leg. And as you do that, your femur bone will draw into that hip socket naturally as you penetrate a little bit deeper. So you're spreading your awareness, you're penetrating a bit deeper by connecting the femur bone into the hip, feeling that. Okay, so now I'm going to have you release that and just get a feeling where you're lengthening one side. So you're going to lean over to your right side and bring your thigh completely onto the floor. Okay, so the knee is coming down, the calf is coming down, and I'm bringing all of my weight there. So bring all your weight to that right side, and then at the same time, lengthen through the left side. So as you lengthen, This leg is also externally rotating, top of the buttocks externally rotating down, and then just be mindful that you're not pressing into the knee, but you're holding that inner thigh and rolling that thigh back. Keep the weight on your right thigh. Keep the elbow pressing and maintain that space from the shoulder to the side of the head so the neck is not jamming and your head's not falling. And then come to the other side. So you're shifting your weight. Bring your forearm and your elbow onto that leg. Keep the back long, so not curving the back, not tilting the ribs up. So with that hand, you can take the hand underneath the calf also. It'll help you to bring more weight, and so this hand won't slide. And then adjust your shoulder, and then lengthen the inner leg toward the inner knee. Feeling that turning of that top thigh. And as your outer knee moves back, you can look at your knee. So it's moving back. Back thigh is lengthening towards your hip socket. And as you maintain that connection and deepen that connection, you can start to feel the inner groin lengthening, widening, spreading. Use your breath to do that. Release a little bit with each exhalation. And then come up. Okay, now I'm going to take the blanket away. We'll do it one more time. Bring the heels in. Take the hand underneath that ankle. Shift your weight. Bring all the weight onto that right side. And then getting a good purchase on the upper thigh, start to lengthen. Stay with your breath. Observe what you're feeling with your breath. Mindful of what you're experiencing in the inner groin, the back groin. Breathe into it to soften it. And release. And then you're going to come to the other side. So bring the hand underneath the calf, shin, ankle area. Keep the weight there. Keep lengthening the top of the buttock down. So you want to have space in your lower back as you do this. Press the outer knee back, lengthening up through the back thigh toward the hip joint, feeling that activation of the buttocks and the hip and the thigh. Releasing the leg down any amount. Gradually with each breath. You might not be able to bring the leg down like I'm doing, but it's a process. So practicing this often will help you to get that space that you need. And then release. Okay, now I'm going to sit back on the blanket. And if you're already quite open, you can take the block between the feet. So have the block right in the center. Bring the feet in as much as you can. So we've been lengthening a little bit. You can take the feet in a little bit closer, hands underneath the ankles, or actually underneath, really above the ankle, near the shin, so you can lift up through the trunk as you lengthen out into both legs. So here, with your feet together, you're not getting as much space, but as you have that space, you can start to move the feet a little bit further apart, getting that extension in the groin. Lengthen your lower back up, middle back, the upper back. And I'm pulling on the calves, the shins, the ankle, pulling up as I release the legs downward. So there's action through the arms, action through the chest. And then release. So the next pose is Upavista Konasana. And in Upavista, I'm going to take something in front of me. So you could use a chair. I have this wooden block that's good for this. Lift up, so you press your hands down. I'm going to take my legs a little bit wider. I usually like to have the heel on the front of the mat so that you can see that you're lengthening the legs equally. But here, since I've already brought this here, I'm going to just move my hips back so I can extend the legs. Heads of the femur bone moving down, backs of the thighs on the floor. So here you have the mat as a good way to indicate, are you really lengthening the legs, and are you using that downward action of the legs that we often talk about in Iyengar yoga, the downward as well as upward action, same time. So feel the whole back of your leg on the mat. Extend the calf toward the heel. Release the calf in case it's stuck on the mat. And then look at your ankle bones. You want your ankle bones balanced, the inner and outer. And then from the inner ankle, extend through the heel. So you're getting a little bit more space, lengthening the legs a little bit more. Bring your hands onto this platform. You could also just bring your hands behind you and lift up that way, the way we did in Baddha Konasana. So press the hands down, lift up through the chest. So here you're getting that openness through the front groin. Back groin is also opening. Just stay there, have a few more breaths, keeping the legs active. So as you keep the legs active, you're not gripping in the groin, but you're spreading and creating some space there. So sitting in Upavista, we're now going to do a twist. Raise up through the right arm. Take the left hand back. Be on the fingertips of both. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, turn. If you have a bolster there, you can take your hand back onto the bolster. You could use a block. You could use the wall. Keep the trunk in line with the hips. Descend the femur bone again, so that it's still opening and creating space in the front groin. And release. Take the other arm up. Take the hand back. Be on the fingertips. Stay conscious of the backs of the legs. Backs of the legs spreading, descending. And as you press that inner heel away, then lengthen up through the inner leg to the inner groin. From the outer hip, move down to the outer heel. There's a circular action there happening. Maintaining that length. Inhale, lengthen up. Exhale, turn. Okay. Now we're going to go into the last posture, which is also opening for the front groin and softening. You're going to need 2 chairs or 2 small little tables, couple blankets. I'm using 5 blankets because I only have thin blankets, but if you have thicker ones, maybe you don't need as many. So I'll just show you. So get your chairs, and I'll give you further instructions. Okay, so I have 2 chairs, and I have 3 rolled blankets. Okay, whatever you're using for shoulder stand will be good. If you haven't been practicing shoulder stand, then you want 3 blankets. I have the rolled edges toward the end of the mat, and I've stacked them over one another so that there's a little bit of angle, but not much. It's just for your neck here. So in other words, you don't want to have like that or like that. You want to have these blankets as concentrated as you can with just a little bit of an angle so that it creates a firm foundation for your shoulders. Okay? Now, because I don't like my head on the mat, I'm going to take this blanket, extra one. You could just take a towel. I don't have a towel here. You could put that on the mat so that the back of the head goes there. Here I'm using this so it even gives me a little bit more height, which could always be good, because you're going to bring your legs over onto the chair. Because I want to slide, you could use towels. I want to slide the legs. I'm going to use blankets so that I'm sliding. If I used a mat, maybe it wouldn't give me the same benefit. I'll explain. Okay, now you're going to take the bolster, bring the bolster to the end, and sit on the bolster. So I want to have my shoulders, I can shoulder stand, shoulders on the edge, about 1 thumb's length away. So you can take your shoulders, feel where they are. If they're further away, for instance, if your shoulders were at the edge, you want to come back and measure your distance. So you take both thumbs. I can feel my shoulders. It's about a thumb's length away. When you go up, the tendency is to the weight slides. So you don't want to be right at the edge because you might slide off. Now, you're going to press your arms down, and then you're going to lift the legs up. I want the chair as close in as you can bring the chairs. And I'll show you a couple different versions. So as the legs are up, I'm going to be pressing the hands down, pressing the arms down, and getting a little lift of the hips. So you can try that. Press, lift, and then you can take the legs over, bend the knees, bring the thighs onto the chair, take the feet through the chair, take your hands on your back, and here, get a little bit more rotation on the shoulders. So here, I'd like to have the thighs as close to the edge as I can, but I have a mat there. So I'm going to release the mat, move the thigh onto the top of the chair. So just move the chair in, come in as far as you can. Now, I have these blankets just to give me more height. So depending on the length of your trunk, you may need to have more height. So first, rolling the shoulders under, take your hands on the back, and walk the legs in. Lengthen your neck, release the shoulders, and let the legs be heavy. Now, if this is not comfortable for you, and you need a little bit more height, you can take your legs up onto the back of the chair. Lift the hips up, walk your hands down. Here you have a little bit more space if the trunk is long. You can also just bend the knees, have the feet on the back of the chair, release the thighs onto the chair. So this will depend on what kind of props you have there. So setting up as best you can to be in a position that you can just relax there. So the back groin is softening, as well as is the front groin. You could also attempt this without a mat. You might be able to bring the chairs in a little bit closer. This is as far as I can bring the chairs in. aware of your breath. If you have the legs through the chairs and you're supported on the thighs, you can release the arms to the side. So once I've released the arms, I'm a little bit more on the backs of the shoulders, which is very comfortable, the arms resting. But you have to have enough height under your thighs so that the back is not falling back, hips are not falling back. Here you're in an inversion where the whole abdominal area and all of your organic body is inverted, suspended, which gives a lot more availability for the blood flow, for releasing in the muscles and any tightness, digestion. Lower back. And because you're in this inversion and you're in Jalandhara Bandha, which is when the chest is moving toward the chin, your throat is more narrowed. So there's some softness that can come there. But also there's circulation into the glands. And with that comes more blood and oxygen. More relaxed state for the throat, the heart, and the nervous system. So this is a pose you can go to whenever you want. If you're tired, your legs are tired, you're very hot, it's a very cooling pose as well. To come out carefully, taking your legs out. Bring your hands back onto that bolster. Press the arms down and bend your knees and use the arms on that bolster, pressing down and knees bent to slowly come down so that you're coming down with control. And then move your head. You have to move your chairs back. Move your head, your shoulders down. Now the hips are lifted and you're coming back into that Baddha Konasana. Depending on how the groins are feeling, you can take your blanket off the chair and roll that blanket. And you can bring it right in backs of the thighs. I'm going to move the chairs out of the way so you can see. Lifting the legs. Blanket is on the front of the ankles. Pulling the heels in. And pulling that blanket in so it supports your outer hip joint so that the groin can soften a little bit. So it's not just suspended in air. Or you could take one blanket on each side and build it up a little bit more. Roll it. Bring one to this side and bring one to the other side so that there's a little bit more softness that comes to the groin area. Okay, so whichever you do, you can feel that openness through the pelvis. And then straighten the legs. Next, we'll be coming off of the platform, off of the bolster into Shavasana. So you're going to bend your knees and roll onto your right side or your left side, whichever is going to be better for you space-wise. And then take your blankets away. Have one blanket for the head. And then you're going to further soften the groins by having the bolster underneath the knees. Adjust the pelvis. Buttocks moving away. Adjust the shoulder blades. Release the legs out. Let the knees bend. Heels coming closer towards one another. So you're getting that rotation, that external rotation. And you, again, have that support underneath the legs. Let your arms relax. Back of the head on the floor, right in the center. Just allow yourself to be. As you use your exhalation to release further and further, lengthening your exhalation. Observing your breath. Aware of the sound of your breath, the quality of your breath. Breathing into softness. Namaste.